2, 3.
Okay, video go, and we are going to go across all over the place, and we are going to pull the scoreboard up, and I don't know what we're doing. I'm trying to sync this up, and then the scoreboard's down, and then we're going to spawn on that person. Okay, in the Jeep. So that's pretty much as synced as I can really get these things. Again, microphone not great. You know, I'm working on it. You've heard about it already. I'm not going to really iterate myself. But what I have for you guys today is some crazy objective gameplay. Really crazy objective gameplay I got with Millsey and Connor and sort of Josh, even though he's on the team. But he was part of the shenanigans. I think I get a total of like 2 kills or something in this game, and it's like 2 or 3 kills or something like that. But I think we took the ace pin, and I got 12 flag caps. I got 3 flag capping pins, I think is what it is. I mean, we just played. This was just such a funny game to play because we didn't really do any killing. We just drove around in jeeps all game long. There was quite a few deaths in here because obviously when you run into a tank and this shit happens like you see now, you can't really get away from tanks and other jeeps and stuff like that. So we got wrecked a few times, but that was just really funny. And a couple of times we got beaten by Josh as well, because he's an annoying person and like to fly around drive around in a tank and hunt you down. But yeah, lots of crazy shenanigans on this game, and I haven't tried it since. It was just the one-off thing, but we didn't even mean to really do it. We just were kind of doing it, and then we looked at the scoreboard. And it was like, what? We're actually doing ridiculously well. And it was just really funny, to be honest, to have this kind of stuff happen. And it's really weird that we managed to get away with it for so long as well, because, like, obviously you get caught by a tank now and again, but, like, nobody seemed to sort of really look out for us, I don't think. There was I think we ran into mines a couple of times, but apart from that, it was like, I don't really think they were for us, but they might have been, who knows. But it was funny as hell. Some of the moments we had in this game of us driving around, of us driving off without each other, and especially chasing Josh around the map, as you'll see later on. That was towards the end of the game, but that was really good fun as well. And it's crazy that we won this, because I think we were down for a lot of the game, as in points wise, and then at the end we managed to scrape it up and pull a win out the bag somehow. But I mean, because of the mobility of these jeeps and things, you're able to get from point to point really quickly, which is really helpful, especially when like a flag's getting capped. You can just jump on with 2 or 3 guys, and obviously with usually having the amount of people majority, you end up either neutralising it and winning it back, or at least contesting it for a while. So I don't know, it actually turned out to be a really useful tactic, which is surprising considering what we were doing isn't the most lethal idea we've ever come up with, but it was good fun. It was worth the time. But yeah, it's a long video, so sit down and relax, I guess, is the way to go about this. So it's something to talk about, and it's kind of about Battlefield and in general, and how it's sort of played out really. You know, I mean, everybody's sort of got acquainted with it now. It's hit a month that it's been out, more or less. Pretty much all over around the world now. It's the 28th or something when I record this, so yeah, everybody's had a good crack at it now, and everyone's got on with it. And if they like it, they like it by now. If they don't like it, they don't. Or at least there's definitely you've got a stronger opinion than after the first week. I think there's a few massive flaws in the game that I'm really disappointed with, and one of them is I'm not even that big a competitive gamer, but I remember they spoke on the podcast, on the DRMB podcast actually, Zinto was on there, and he was talking about how much emphasis they wanted to give competitive side of Battlefield. And I remember reading an article, it wasn't even reading an article actually, it was just listening to another episode that they had with the Quantic guys on DRMB, and they were talking about how hard it is to organise competitive gameplay on Battlefield by Company 2 due to how the servers play and everything like that. And it's interesting that with with Battlefield 3, although they said they were really interested in like sort of keeping the community that does a lot of competitive stuff alive and in the loop, I guess, there was a massive flaw in the fact they didn't put private matches in, which is just mind-numbing to me that they would even consider not putting them in. I mean, it's a staple of most FPS games these days. You've got Gears, you've got Halo that has their custom games, which is just a totally different thing. Call of Duty's got its massive private match emphasis for competitive. And then you've got Battlefield. I mean, Bad Company had it, and it's the simplest, well, probably isn't the simplest thing to do, but it's not the most complicated thing in the world to have implemented something like a private match in. And I can't actually understand why they haven't. I haven't seen any good reason for why they haven't, and I can't think of any good reason why they haven't. This game, I mean, I've seen it all over Twitter as well. It just seems like it's been shortcut, really. Like, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy it. I prefer it pretty much to everything else I'm playing at the moment. Save Skyrim, but that's a totally different. You can't really compare the two. They're both great games in their own respect. But it just seems like they've missed out so much. There's so many little bugs and glitches and what the fuck happened there and things like that. And you're like, why didn't they just spend a few more months? They didn't need to put... Well, they did for marketing reasons, need to push out against Call of Duty this year, but you just sit there and think, like, you could have made so much better game. And realistically, those people that wanted to buy Modern Warfare in the first place and didn't want to buy Battlefield wouldn't have bought it anyway if you put it out at any release. The guys that bought Battlefield were most likely the guys that were interested by your general game, and it's, I think, if you'd done a proper marketing campaign, you know, even a couple of months later, like pushing into December instead of like, you know, September times, people would have still bought the game because you would have marketed it better, and people would have given it better reviews because, you know, you've actually released a slightly more finished game. And even in a couple of months, I don't think you would have made the greatest amount of improvements, but I think you would have done things like put a private match in, sort the matchmaking out, all these little aspects. And I know EA are renowned for doing bad launches of games, but it is really disappointing to see a game that had so much potential to be arguably the best game of the year. And I know that's a controversial statement because there has been a lot of good games come out this year, possibly the best FPS of the year is more suitable, but for it to come out and people just sort of pick it apart, like, well, great, you've released the groundwork of a good game, but you haven't got the key things right, such as, well, an aspect we need to play the game, the matchmaking. If you can't get that right, it doesn't matter how damn good your game is on paper. Like, yeah, we're going to have this many people in the server, this many different aspects, this many different vehicles. You're going to have jets, bitch. Yeah, well, I can't fly them because I can't get into a bloody game. There's a huge flaw there from EA and arguably DICE for just pushing it out. I don't know how it actually works. I don't know how it actually went down in the developers and the publishers' heads, how they wanted to go about this, but either way, you know, it's got its flaws and it could have had its improvements. And one of the big things that you find when you get into a game actually is, like, some of the guys who are playing it, I think it's due to the fact that I know that this was put up against Call of Duty that I bring this argument up, but how a lot of the bad players you automatically assume are Call of Duty players, when in fact they're probably not. I mean, there were some pretty bad players on Battlefield, Bad Company 2 as well, and that was a really small game in terms of players on there. I mean, you'd run into familiar faces on a number of occasions. I know I ran into Koino in a video I put up ages ago, and his crew, and I also ran into Soviet Polonia. I've run into Leon Trotsky. He probably doesn't remember that, but I have run into these guys' faces a couple of times, or gamer tags them a couple of times while in game. So it's just those kind of things that had quite a small population playing the game. Okay, so I stopped that again because someone dog started barking. So always disrupts things when you're trying to go over them. What was I talking about? Okay, right. Bad players in Bad Company 2, I think was the last thing I was talking about. So, a lot of the players you see on Battlefield 3 Online are questionable teammates, let's put it like that. I mean, I know myself that my reasoning behind the support kit being slightly underpowered was the fact I never ran into any good support players for the majority of the time. In which sense, I mean, not that they can't kill a lot of people or they can't use their kit well, but they're not giving the ammo out, and that's one of the big things in the teamwork aspect that you would expect a support to do, along with their designated suppressive role. I guess the way of putting it. I mean, what else would you really need a massive machine gun with a bipod for? So I don't know. That was one of the reasons I thought, well, why is there no one playing good support? Obviously, it's because the support guns aren't very effective, so no one wants to use them. So that means that there's less people playing who would be useful teammates. That's just a reason that came into my head. I don't know if it's really that accurate, because after using the saw for a while, I think I'm on almost my third server star with it, and it's a really good gun if you use correctly and in the right circumstances. Which is basically tight corridors and fucking hold the trigger. That's about the gist of it. But I mean, it's not even just that. It's like you would play engineer and you'd only have so many rockets that you can use on a tanks that are coming up on Carg Island or whatever, for instance. And then you've got guys who don't want to give you give you ammo packs to replenish the rockets. And then obviously shit happens when all these tanks fucking destroy the front of the island. There's like 6 AMVs or whatever they're called, the Amtrak shit. They all come flying up the front of the beach, and everyone's there like, well, if you get me ammo, I'd sort this out. But let's chase Josh. But can't do shit about it because now I'm just using a gun, and they don't do shit to AMVs, and I don't really fancy running at it with a repair tool. So how do we go about this? Well, we need people to give out ammo, and we need people to give out health if I'm dead, or pick me up in a crucial spot where it's really competitive, that kind of thing. And that's just the two obvious kits that play team support. And I mean, the idea that I was thinking of earlier would be, well, it was more actually to do with the fact that my internet isn't working right as I record this, and I was thinking about playing single player games. Then I was thinking about single player campaigns. Then I was thinking about what would you do if a game didn't have a single player campaign. And I know that's been done before, but I'm just thinking, what if Battlefield 4, I don't know about Bad Company 3, because they've kind of got a storyline in Bad Company, but let's say Battlefield 4 didn't have a storyline. Well, I don't really know how the Battlefield series campaign goes, but let's just for I don't even know what the word is, just for the sake of it, Battlefield 4 comes out with no single player story, for instance. Maybe they've got the little co-op storyline, but no massive single player story. And instead, what they use the disk space, or whatever you want to designate it, or the development time, they make a tutorial, or at least sort of a space for practice. And it kind of ties in with the private match aspect, in that there's no place to practice. This is the main aspect for me, is that there's no place to practice flying jets or choppers. I know on Bad Company 2, if you went into private match or onslaught mode, you would be able to fly the choppers around, things like that. And in Battlefield 3, you do have the opportunity to practice flying choppers in the co-op game level, where you've got the chopper flying bit. But there's no jet practice, and jets are the new thing. Jets are the thing no one's used to, and they're really quite tricky at times, and they're really annoying for people to waste. So, it's surprising that they didn't put an aspect in for people to fly and practice, even in campaign or something like that as well. There's a jet level, but you don't fly it, which is kind of counterproductive, if you ask me. Although obviously it would be hard to make a jet level around where you fly. But I'm just thinking they should have, or at least they could in the future, do a tutorial level. Similar to in-game tutorials, where they teach you different things, or before you're single player. I know, off the top of my head, although I'm sure there's better examples, in Alien vs Predator, which is a game I doubt many of you have played, every campaign, because there's 3 separate campaigns that tie into one another, every campaign starts with a tutorial section, which teaches you the ins and outs of each character, really, the alien, the predator, and the human, and how to use that character well, and what things you have at your disposal. And I think if they gave you a means to practice, whether it be map strategies, vehicle usage, or gun combinations, see what you make of a gun. Obviously you can just jump into a game and try it out, but if you really wanted to, but the main thing would be to practice flying in private mode. And I think a massive thing for if they gave you tutorial levels to test out, that would be a really great aspect to incorporate in the future. Aside from that, I think that a lot of new guys, I was sort of on that point earlier, and I kind of went about answering it in the wrong order, is that new guys to the series, obviously, it's a pretty intimidating game, Battlefield. You know, these maps are pretty damn big. How the way the game plays, the heavy aspect of vehicles in the game, everything is pretty different to your standard Call of Duty game, which is fast. I mean, a typical fast Battlefield game is about 10 minutes. Obviously, depending on the map and the teams and everything like that, you can get faster, and obviously you can get slower. You know, we had games a couple of nights ago where it was 25, 30, sometimes a couple of them were 40 minutes. So you can be there for quite a damn long while playing games. And some new guys just don't want to sit around and do nothing or get bored. So what you need to do is teach these guys what would speed up the game, perhaps. And the main aspect there would be playing the damn objective, which is a big key point of why I've used this gameplay. And I know it was sort of an idea going around in people's heads, and I know because I've heard it before, and you know, it's not an alien idea to the community. It would be a great little thing for DICE to have incorporated a tutorial of some kind, saying, you know, like, oh Christ, this goes badly, saying, you know, this is your kit, this is what each kit does. You know, that you've seen the comical little the comics really, aren't they? Of the like different classes and then the explanations next to them. They're quite little funny articles that I've seen. You know, this is the engineer. You shoot shit with the rockets. You blow vehicles up. You know, it's pretty simple stuff. But a lot of players they seem to miss that part of how to play, and I think that ties in with, like, you know, lack of good support players and things like that. I don't know. I just really would like. I think this game would function much better if you had guys who knew what they were doing, and I know that a lot of us do. A lot of the guys that watch this know exactly what you're doing, and if I played with any of you, you'd all be pretty competent guys to play with. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are either new to the series, or, you know, maybe they're old to the series, they don't really understand what they're doing still. And it just takes that sort of teaching, that prompt, which would give them a bit more insight, make them not only enjoy the game more, because, you know, you're ranking up faster, you're getting more points every game, you're overall a better player, that kind of thing. But I mean, it would make me enjoy my game a lot more if I had teammates who were throwing the ammo out, throwing them medic kits out, blowing vehicles up, doing work, and all that kind of thing. So, almost fucked this point to death really, but I don't know, I want to see what you guys think of that. If for instance, when you came into Battlefield for the first time, into Battlefield 4 for the first time, there's a compulsory video when you click on the multiplayer section, like a Battlefield 101, perhaps done by Xbox Ahoy because of his voice being so amazing, or maybe our own resident Battlefield guy, Booman. He might have been a slightly more appropriate suggestion for the Battlefield series, but I definitely think they should look into that aisle of opportunity. And, you know, who knows, maybe they'll ask us to do some footage for them. That'd be sweet. But I think that'd be a really good thing to see when you jumped onto Battlefield 4, someone actually explaining how the game works, how people would expect you and want you to play, and that'd be damn useful for me as well. So I don't know, guys, give me your thoughts. Thanks for sitting down and listening to not only the bad mic quality but the entire video. I know that it's a bit of a stress to watch it all and all that kind of good thing. So thank you very much for sticking around and watching it, all about less than 100 of you that usually sit down to watch my videos. Appreciate it very much. And yeah, I'll speak to you guys soon. Hope you enjoyed the slightly different style of video to usual. You know, 2 and 6 with 8,000 points is pretty rare occurrence, but yeah, so that's about it. And I will speak to you sometime in the future. Alright, sweet guys.